My name is Betty David Ross. I have a master's in reading. I'm very well trained in Orton Gillingham phonics. And I've been teaching forever, mostly with children who have difficulty. And I've developed a lot of these methods and ways of working in order to help them. And I'm pleased to say that for the most part, I've been very successful. So the first thing I'm going to discuss is a little bit of the review, the differences between phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 always starts with a spoken word. Now, I can either say a word, we can have an object, identify the object with a spoken word. We can just say a name. We could even start with a printed word and either I read the word or the student reads the word. But once it's spoken, that's that's the important thing. We have to start with what's spoken. And so when first we say the spoken word, and then we say, what are the sounds in this word? For instance, if I see the word was, I can read it, but I'm going to say to the student, well, what's the first sound in was? And what's the second sound? What's the third sound? And then we're going to figure out what letters represent those sounds. With phase 2, we always start with the written word, the letters. Now, this resembles reading. It's much closer to what reading is normally. I mean, when we read, the first thing we encounter is the printed word. We don't want to start with that when we're teaching students because learning phonics really happens in phase 1. This is an application, and phase 2 is application and reinforcement. I often go back and forth depending upon how advanced the student is, or what I think the student needs at any particular time. When doing phase 2, you can work with words the student already knows how to read or words they don't know how to read. What you're basically learning is a procedure for decoding words when that start with print. So the first thing is you look at the letters and you ask which letters represent sounds. Now you can see, for instance, if you have the word choke, by this point, the student must know that CH represents a single sound. And that the O is, in all likelihood, a long O because it's followed by a consonant E pattern. So that's all learned in phase 1. So we start with the written form of the word. We ask which letters represent sounds and what sounds do these letters represent. So that's the order that we go in. Okay, so we'll start right away with an example of this, all right? So we have strong, and there's a procedure to follow, all right? The first thing you do is you identify the vowel letters. Vowels are the cornerstones of syllables. And if you're saying them, they're a cornerstone because every syllable is formed around a vowel sound. And when in the written form, those vowel letters have to jump out and bite you on the nose. So I'm going to number the vowel letters. Now, when my students are stronger, I don't number the letters. And the purpose of numbering the letters is really making it clear that the number of letters is not the same as the number of sounds in a word. Okay, so in this case, the O makes a sound because it comes between 2 consonants. The I makes a sound because it comes between 2 consonants. The E is silent because the E in any word longer than 3 letters is silent. The I, it makes a sound, all right? So I've identified which letters make a vowel sound, which of the vowel letters make a vowel sound. Now we're going to talk about identify which consonant letters make sounds. Now here's an easy cheat. If we know the vowel is going to make a sound, the vowel is isolated, we can be reasonably sure the letters on either side make a sound. So I'm putting a dot on either side of the I here. In this case, I'm going to put it on one side of the I because I've learned through phase 1 that the IGH is a trigraph representing the long I sound. All right. Now, some people teach that STR makes a single sound, like a shroom. And I can understand why. But I strongly recommend for those students who have difficulty with sounds that you teach each sound separately. So the R makes a sound, and the T makes a sound, and the S makes a sound. Now in life, the FE makes a sound because any E at the end of a word more than 3 letters in English is going to be silent. I'm trying to think of this as an exception. I can't think of an exception. I keep looking for one. I can't think of one. And I'm not going to alter English spelling, so I've got to stick it somewhere. So I stick it on with the F. All right. Now I know the T makes a sound, and the IGH represents the long I sound. It's a way of representing it. So the thing I have to do after I've identified the consonant sounds, I have to figure out how to blend the sounds together. I always start with a vowel. And somebody said, well, I never start with a vowel. I start with the first letter. If you're a competent reader, you've got the STR grouped together and the ONG grouped together. And so you just have 2 units to blend, and starting with the first letter works for you. There are other ways that starting with the first letter can work. But I think that most of us look for the vowel letters automatically because it defines the structure of the word and the structure of the syllable. So I'm going to start with the O, and I'm going to blend it with the NG. Now I use this process I call cross-body blending. And for that, if I'm doing it for myself, I always have to look. Okay, I'm going to use my right arm. I'm going to touch my left shoulder and say ah, and then my right shoulder say because the O is on the left side of my body, and the NG relatively is on the right side. And I could actually put strings down if necessary to demonstrate that. But because I'm on Zoom and because I'm teaching and I'm frequently facing my students, I do it opposite. I mirror what they're doing. So I'm going to do ah, and hopefully that child is going to be using their right arm to match my left, ah, and do it that way. So it's ah, holding those 2 sounds separately, and then blending it. Ah. And then I'm going to add on the R. 1 letter at a time. And now I've got the ong sound together. I'm going to do that together. Ong. And now I'm going to add on the T. T. And I'm going to add it on to wrong. T. Wrong. Trong. And finally, I'm going to add on the S. S. Strong. Strong. This is a really good process for exercising the auditory processing system. I find it helps students who have auditory processing problems overcome it. Okay, I'm going to do the same with life now. Again, I'm going to start with the I. I'm going to blend it with the F. I, f, if. And then I'm going to put on the L. L, if, life. I'm going to do the same thing with right. I, t, it. And then I'm going to add on the R from it. It, right. I've already mentioned the importance of vowels. I say all students, all readers must become vowel hunters. Students must know the vowel letters. I sometimes say to a student, do you know the vowel letters? And they'll go, yeah. Let me see, E is 1, is R 1? You get even that. Sometimes they can list them all, but not in order. I think it's really vital. It should be automatic A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Strongly recommend that. Good readers search out the vowels. When I teach decoding, I say always start with identifying the vowel letters in the word. Always start with the vowel letters. Good readers see those vowel letters. The vowel letters tell you the structure of the word and the structure of the syllable. And good readers learn word families and units, sets of letters like an, im, ip, I isn't a word family. It's just a trigraph. Ice, Ike, ack, bull, if, ong, ing. And those are learned almost like sight words, the same way the sight words are learned. It's really important. And I'm going to show you how to divide longer words into syllables. First of all, as with everything else, you identify the vowel letters. You start with that. And when I start working with students with this, I always identify the number, I count the number of vowel letters. And I do that so that they can see there are often more letters than there are sounds. Then the next thing is to identify which of these letters make sound. So the A makes a sound because it comes between two consonants. The I makes a sound because it comes between two consonants. The E is silent because all single E's at the end of longer words are silent. Then I have to do the job of separating this word into syllables. If I have 2 vowel sounds, I have 2 syllables. If I have 3 vowel sounds, I have 3 syllables. If I have 4 vowel sounds, I have 4 syllables. If 5 vowel sounds, I have 5 syllables, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As I'm saying, I said before, the vowel tells you the structure of the word. We are so lucky to have vowel letters. Hebrew leaves out the vowel letters. It's a lot harder to learn to read. Let me tell you, you think English is bad. Okay, so my rule is you have to divide, put a dividing line between the numbers. You've numbered the vowels, it's clear. So I have to get a dividing line between the 1 and the 2. So I can technically put it here, or I can put it here, or I can put it here. All right. Now, I know many of you out there say your flesh started crawling. How can you start a word divided here? Well, you can't, because there's another rule. Every syllable has to look like it could be an English word. And no word ever in English ever starts with a CT. It can start with a CL, it can start with a CR. It cannot start with a CT. We do not have that in English, ever. So that is not a possibility. Out it goes. However, we can divide it here, and we can also divide it here. And either one will get us where we're going. Next, I have to identify which consonant letters make sounds. So again, I have the cheat thing of just putting it right after on either side of the A. That makes it easy because I know that that makes a vowel sound. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to put it between the P and the R because I know they make individual sounds. I've learned that in phase 1. If I don't know that another way, and if I still don't know it, as an instructor, I am going to tell my students that outright. Okay, so now I have to blend the individual syllables. So I have ack, 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 rack, rack, prack. Now I go to syllable number 2. If the student pronounces it ice, because that follows the syllable rule, I'll go along with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'll show you that in a minute. So it's ice, ice. And then my next challenge is blending the syllables. So I have to go practice, practice, practice. Now I'm going to look at an alternative approach that I've used to just dividing up the letters. I had a student that just, his attention problem, I don't know what it was, but oh my goodness gracious, nothing I did seemed to work. So what I did, I started isolating the letters on the page. So I have an E here, my vowels, and here I have an E here, and then I have an O, and then I have an I, and I had him list the vowel letters since I'm doing this on Zoom, and I wrote them. I don't know how to get the students to write at the same time I do. I'm technologically challenged. Okay, now I have to add on my consonants. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 syllables because the E alone makes a sound and the Y alone makes a sound. And the E is between two consonants, the O is between two consonants, the I is between two consonants, the A is between two consonants. All 6 of these vowel letters make sounds. All right, so where do I want to do? Let's do just right afterwards. So I'm going to put an L here, which gives me L. Now I'm going to go to this E and I have a C. So let me put it here. And then I have an N here. And after this, the I, I'm going to put a C. And after the A, I'm going to put an L. So I have L, ek, on, ik, alley. All right, that's not too bad. L, ek, on, ik. And it's worthwhile identifying all the syllables as I go along, because if your student is having trouble, this is a great way to work on it. So I've got the L, I've got the C. Now I've got TR. I'm going to put the R here and get Ron. Now, the T, I can either put with the EC or with the RON. Let me put it with the C today. Okay. L, ect, Ron, ik, al, Lee. L, ek, Ron, ik, alley. L, ect, Ron, ik, alley. There is no way, if it's an unfamiliar word, that you're going to be easily to figure out the pronunciation. You have to have the pronunciation, first of all, in your speaking vocabulary. And even then, you frequently have to figure out the word from context. All English readers are dependent on context. All of us are. Not just our disabled students who cannot read perfectly well. Just that we're so used to doing it, we don't think about it. So here are the vowels in astronauts. A-O, I'm putting the A-U together because my rule is if you have 2 vowels that are next to each other, assume they make one sound. If that doesn't work, try 2. And you're going to assume it makes one sound because statistically, it's much more likely it's going to make one sound. So start with the statistical likelihood. Okay, so let's put the S here. Let's put the N here, put the T here. We can add on the S right away. Astronauts. Astronauts, not Ron. Okay, so let's put the R here. So now I have astronauts, and I have I can put the T here, or I can put the T with the AS, or I can put the T here. I'm going to put it here today. Astronauts. Again, if you say every syllable slowly and carefully like that, it doesn't sound like a real word. That's the way it works. As I've mentioned before, all readers are dependent on context clues. Is the word here READ past or present? She read the book in an hour. They read every day. And then what does the word cook refer to? The cook burnt the soup. It's a noun. He will cook dinner for the week. A verb. I'll need a new cooktop. An adjective. And there's no way of figuring out the exact sound of a word or the meaning of a word if you don't have it in at least in your reading vocabulary or your listening vocabulary. You have to have it. You have to have some knowledge of the word. Again, and how to use context clues. If a student mispronounces the word practice, rhyming it with ice as an ice cube, they can figure it out by reading the word in a sentence. Again, they have to know the meaning of the word practice. If they never heard the word, it'll be difficult to figure out what it means, how to actually pronounce the word. If students are unable to figure out words from context clues, you have to teach it. What I do is I use the student's mispronunciation of the word in a variety of sentences to give them a chance to figure it out. So I'll say, I practice the piano every day. My brother practices soccer with his friends, etc. If they can't do it, I will tell them the correct pronunciation, showing them the relationship between the pronunciation they got and the correct one. In my experiences, if they keep the consonants in the right order and are close to the right vowel sound, they have a good chance of figuring it out. Unfortunately, what a lot of students do is that they eliminate letters altogether, and that's a problem. I've already mentioned the whole idea of common useful letter combinations, units. For instance, ice is a wonderful, useful letter combination. Ack is a useful letter combination. Prr is a useful letter combination. And they can be studied and memorized just the way you do sight words. I do not recommend you start there. There are programs like Glass Analysis that starts with this, especially the word family units. With students who have real auditory processing problems, it doesn't work with them. They really need to hear every phoneme separately. They need to hear the A versus the K. They need to hear the I versus the S. They need to hear the P versus the R. Don't start with chunking. Make sure your students have real phonemic awareness. So here's a little list of helpful rules in a phonics discovery system. Every syllable should look like it could be an English word. The one exception I have found for that is TLE, is this final stable suffix TLE. SLE can look like an English word. BLE, GLE, KLE. KLE is a challenge, but not TLE under any circumstances. So this is one exception to that, and I'm sure there are others. When dividing words into syllables, divide between two consonant letters if they are the same. So as in letter, Betty, robber, etc. Both the consonants do not make sounds, but somehow it doesn't interfere with decoding the word, and it's the convention. So I hold with that. So far, I've only found one exception to the rule about dividing it between two consonants, which is, again, the TL problem. The final E in any word of more than 3 letters is silent. So we're contrasting traditional phonics approaches and the discovery approach. It's not an either-or option. For teachers who are more comfortable with the traditional approach to teaching phonics, the discovery method can be included in these lessons. You do 1 or 2 words and break them down either by phase 1 or phase 2. I mean, literally 1 or 2 words will give some of your students a clue. I did that with a first grade class. I just did like 4 or 5 names. It was the end of a year. A teacher came to me desperate. She said, "You made so much progress with my 6th grade son. I've never seen anything like it. What are you doing?" So I came into her class and I did phase 1 with the students, a couple of students' names. And then she followed suit. She said, it was the end of the year. She said, "I've seen more progress in the last 2 weeks than I've seen all year." So it doesn't take much. You just give the students the idea because they love it. It's a game. If I haven't said it's a game. The teachers are more comfortable with the traditional approach for teaching phonics. The discovery method can be included in these lessons. This is my primary approach for teaching decoding skills. I teach phonics rules where I think it will be helpful. And I don't teach it in the Orton-Gillingham way in a highly structured, highly sequenced approach. I teach it as it comes up. Okay, for more information or support, go to bettydr40@gmail.com. And I've included in here something about an audio file with phonemic breakdown. I've made an audio file where I read 5 stories and I break them down phonemically. So it goes once, once, upon, upon. And I made it because I just thought it might be helpful, and I've had stunning results with it. I have students often listen to it while they're sleeping, especially the ones with severe auditory processing problems. It cleared up a child's speech problem. I mean, he was way behind, and he wound up reading. His decoding skills were on grade level within within a month, within a couple of months. I mean, again, I'm not a researcher. I'm terrible with the research. So can I tell you exactly what? No. But I can tell you within a reasonable amount of time, there was a dramatic difference in his comprehension, in his speech. And then I taught him reading separately. I did a little reading, and it took 3 lessons and he was off teaching himself to read. And so that audio file, which is under the Phonics Discovery System 5 Stories, is on YouTube, and you can find it there. And for the transcript for the 5 stories, follow the link in the video description, and there's a completed transcript in there. I hope you enjoyed this video and can use this process to help your students. And thank you so much for watching.